The cold wind cut through the tall pine trees as dusk slowly swallowed the forest. Somewhere in the distance, a crow cawed, echoing through the quiet woods like a warning. Daniel Carter tightened his jacket and adjusted the small flashlight in his hand. The narrow dirt trail ahead of him was barely visible now, swallowed by shadows creeping between the trees. He had only planned a short walk to clear his mind after a long day, but what happened next would change his life forever. And if you believe that even the smallest act of kindness can change someone's destiny, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. Daniel wasn't the kind of man people usually noticed. At 36, life had already carved deep lines of responsibility across his face. 3 years earlier, his wife Emily had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him alone to raise their 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Since then, Daniel's life had become a careful balance of early mornings, long shifts at the auto repair shop, homework at the kitchen table, and bedtime stories whispered under dim bedroom lights. He rarely had time for himself, but on that evening Lily was staying overnight at her grandmother's house, and the quiet in his small apartment had begun to feel unbearable. So he drove out to the nearby forest preserve just outside town. The woods had always helped him think. Emily had loved this place too. Sometimes he imagined she was still there in the rustling leaves or the soft breeze brushing past his face. The trail curved deeper into the forest, and the fading light made everything feel surreal. Daniel was about to turn back when he heard something. At first it was faint, a rustling, then something else, a weak cry. Daniel froze. His heart pounded as he turned his flashlight toward the sound. The beam danced across tree trunks and tangled branches until it stopped on something that made his breath catch. A woman. She was sitting against a fallen tree, her clothes muddy and torn, her dark hair tangled across her face. She looked exhausted, almost ghostly in the pale light. Daniel rushed forward carefully. Up close, he could see she was trembling. She looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes, as if she wasn't sure whether he was real. For a moment, neither of them moved. Daniel's instincts kicked in. He crouched down and offered his jacket, gently placing it over her shoulders. She looked disoriented, her lips pale and cracked as if she hadn't had water for hours. The forest around them felt colder by the second. Daniel handed her his water bottle and waited while she took small, shaky sips. Her hands trembled so badly that some of the water spilled onto the leaves below. She seemed terrified but also relieved that someone had found her. Daniel quickly realized she had been lost for a long time. Her shoes were covered in thick mud, and one of her ankles looked swollen. She could barely stand when he helped her to her feet. The sky had almost completely darkened by then, and the woods had become a maze of shadows. Slowly and carefully, Daniel helped her walk along the trail, supporting most of her weight. Every few steps she paused as if her strength might disappear entirely. The journey back to the parking lot felt endless. Branches cracked beneath their feet. Wind whispered through the trees. Once, Daniel thought he heard something moving deeper in the forest, but he kept going. Finally, after nearly 40 minutes, the faint glow of the parking lot lights appeared through the trees. The woman's shoulders sagged with relief. Daniel helped her into the passenger seat of his old pickup truck and turned on the heater. The warmth filled the small cabin while she sat quietly, staring at her hands as if trying to process everything that had happened. He drove her to the nearest hospital, only 20 minutes away. The emergency staff quickly rushed her inside while Daniel stayed behind, giving the nurse his name and number before leaving. To him, it was simply the right thing to do. By the time Daniel returned home that night, the exhaustion finally hit him. The apartment felt quiet again, but this time his mind was filled with the image of that frightened woman sitting alone in the woods. He hoped she would be okay. The next morning began like any other day. Daniel woke up early, made pancakes for Lily, and helped her pack her school bag. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, filling the room with soft golden light. Life felt normal again. After dropping Lily off at school, Daniel headed to the repair shop. Engines roared, tools clanked, and the familiar smell of motor oil filled the air. Around noon, the shop owner turned on the small television mounted in the corner of the break room. The news channel was already mid-broadcast. Daniel wasn't paying much attention at first. He wiped grease from his hands and reached for his coffee. Then the headline appeared on the screen. National business leader found alive after mysterious disappearance. Daniel's eyes lifted toward the television. The photo on the screen made his heart stop. It was her. The same woman from the forest. Her face appeared beside the headline while reporters spoke excitedly about her sudden rescue. Her name was Victoria Hale, CEO of one of the largest technology companies in the country. She had been missing for nearly 24 hours after her car was found abandoned near the forest preserve. Police and search teams had spent the entire night looking for her. Daniel felt a chill run through him. He hadn't known. He had simply seen someone who needed help. The television continued. Reporters explained that Victoria had apparently gotten lost after trying to find help when her car broke down. The dense forest had disoriented her, and by nightfall she had no idea where she was. Search teams were preparing for the worst, until someone found her. Daniel sat down slowly in the break room chair, still staring at the screen. For a moment, the busy sounds of the shop faded away. That evening, something unexpected happened. A black SUV pulled into the small parking lot outside Daniel's apartment building. Two men stepped out, dressed in dark suits. Daniel had just finished helping Lily with her homework when he heard the knock on the door. When he opened it, he found the men standing there politely. They explained that Victoria Hale had asked to meet him. She wanted to thank the man who had saved her life. The next day, Daniel found himself sitting in a quiet hospital room. Victoria looked completely different now. Her hair was neatly brushed, and the color had returned to her face, but the moment she saw Daniel, her eyes filled with something deeper than gratitude. Relief, emotion, perhaps even disbelief. The woman who commanded billion-dollar companies suddenly looked like someone remembering the worst night of her life. Daniel realized then how close she had come to never being found. Victoria explained that if he hadn't walked down that trail when he did, she might not have survived the cold night in the woods. But the moment that truly changed Daniel came afterward. Victoria had spent years surrounded by powerful people who only valued her position. Yet the man who saved her didn't even know who she was. He didn't ask for money. He didn't expect recognition. He simply helped. For the first time in a long time, she had seen genuine kindness. Weeks passed after that meeting. Daniel returned to his normal life, the repair shop, school drop-offs, bedtime stories. But something unexpected slowly unfolded. Victoria stayed in contact, not out of obligation, but friendship. She visited Daniel and Lily several times, often bringing books or puzzles for Lily. The little girl quickly grew fond of the elegant woman who listened carefully to every story she told. Over time, Victoria began to see something Daniel had nearly forgotten about himself. Strength, kindness, quiet courage. One evening months later, Victoria made a decision that stunned him once again. She offered Daniel a new opportunity. Not charity, not a reward, a partnership. Her company was starting a program to support small-town businesses and community workshops. She believed someone like Daniel, someone who truly understood people and hard work, should help lead it. Daniel had never imagined his life would take such a turn. But the greatest change wasn't the opportunity. It was the realization that one simple moment of compassion in a dark forest had created a ripple far beyond anything he could have predicted. Before we reach the final moments of this story, we have a small request. Comment the word kindness below. If you believe even one good action can change someone's life forever. Years later, Daniel would still remember that quiet walk in the woods, the cold wind, the cry for help, the moment everything changed. Because sometimes the world shifts not through grand gestures, but through ordinary people choosing to care when no one is watching. And if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who believes kindness still matters, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us how powerful simple humanity can truly be. Because somewhere out there tonight, someone might be waiting in their darkest moment for a stranger who chooses to stop and help.